direction if the opposite is true, it biases in a different direction. So if any of you are holding on to surveys, please return them. And we're going to continue to follow patients in our study group. Future directions, I think, is largely been articulated. We need to agree on validated methods for flow and stenosis and restenosis assessment, whether that's measurement of perfusion, diffusion, blood oxygen level dependent imaging, which we're going to hear about later today. We need to try to identify predictors of clinical response and then standardize our methods and endpoints and reporting of results, how we report the results. And as Dr. Dake is going to try to better understand the underlying pathophysiology of the process. Issues that remain, as this was referred to earlier, is commercial interest in providing CCSVI services has made the treatment more available, but may not contribute to the scientific understanding and evaluation of the technique if the data is not being collected. Social media is certainly playing a huge role in how patients pursue treatment. This leads to fragmentation of patient follow-up, difficulty in collecting data and managing patients who may be subject to complications or other problems. And this ultimately could create a backlash in the medical community, making it even harder to pursue this. So we need a randomized controlled trial. We need to express significant care in designing that trial. And that's hopefully put us almost back on time. So thank you very much.
Value, an absolute number of 3 or 5 or something on the MSIS, or are you referring to the standard deviation as the group in whole?
It's greater than one standard deviation unit from a regression or best predicted value based on a null hypothesis that no change. That's my understanding. I'm not a statistician. That's kind of what I'm
the p-value was based on the mean and standard deviation for the actual MSIS scores. He also presented breaking the MSIS into markedly worse, improved, markedly improved, but that was not the basis for the p-value. The p-value was based on
how are they defining who falls into improved, markedly improved? How are those?
Markedly improved and markedly worse. One patient was one standard deviation
away from the mean,
and so the group in between, somewhat improved and somewhat worse, whatever they are, was somewhere between the mean and one standard deviation.
Does anybody else have? Yes.
Excellent presentation, thank you. Right now, we track UDSS as a baseline and then use it going forward. We require a neurologist to assess a patient before they see us, an interventional radiologist. Do you suggest we transition to an MIS score, MCIS score?
I don't know exactly the answer to that. Probably the neurologist would be in a better position to give you an idea of which one's outdated. But I think if we're collecting data in the registry, having a single measure would be important. David, did you have?
Oh, well, you and I are?
Yes, Carl Black, actually.
Oh, great, great. Provo, Utah.
Yes.
Great. So the EDSS requires a neurologist. There are no neurologists. I mean, so if you've got one, great.
We have 2 neurologists.
Then you want the EDSS or the composite score, which is one where you do a nine peg test or walking a certain distance. The MSIS is a self-report instrument. So it's a validated instrument, but it's self-report. So the neurologists are going to say, well, then that's open to bias. Whereas the neurologist is in theory more objective. I have my doubts about that myself, but it's an objective measure in the sense that you're looking at gait, looking at movement. So all things being equal, you want to have the more objective measure, which would be the EDSS, even though the MSIS is validated. It's a self-report.
Thank you.